Hi everyone, Captain Amazing here, and today I want to talk about the fleet meta, so let's jump into it. If you're unaware, the Punishing One has came out and it is a ridiculous ship. Even at 3-4 stars, it is doing a crazy amount and it has shifted the meta as far as the Executor profundity Leviathan balance that there was with Chimera, because before you could put down a pretty good defense for fleets and still have off meta counters. Like you can off meta counter the Executor with Negotiator. You can, if you wanted to, Malevolence. I prefer the Mirror for profundity, and then Leviathan you can Chimera, and it was all and that way you can still have your Leviathan and Executor on defense, which a lot of people did. And what it does is it creates a good synergy and balance for the last year or so for what the meta is. The Punishing One completely shatters that balance because now Executor is a tier above the Profundity. It counters the Chimera, it counters the Negotiator. This ship is just really powerful. It just came out, so I'm not saying there's not an off meta counter for the Executor Punishing One. It just hasn't been developed yet because it's still new. It's only been a few days that it's been out. But Profundity users, you can hear their cries everywhere as the Executor now is just a tier above it. So what does that mean? Before, CG said pretty much immediately after it came out, Executor was said that the CG said that they're going to take and investigate the Punishing One. So they did their little investigation, whatever that means. And they came out and they said that they're actually comfortable where the Punishing One is. And what they're planning on doing is they're going to elevate the TIE Dagger to counter both the Leviathan Mirror and the Punishing One. So they're going to be coming out with TIE Dagger changes shortly. They don't say when. And that's going to be the counter for making sure that Leviathans can't get die to Punishing Ones. I've heard people using Leviathans and failing on Executors on defense. So that's a pretty big deal. If I can't take the meta ship and reliably beat the Executor, that's a huge deal for me. I have had to attack some Punishing One Executors just because my Fleet Shard has some in there. So there's individuals out here that instead of using the profundities that they're using, like this guy, let's see what ship he has. He's still using the standard counter, which works. His fleet is kind of ridiculous. I played it. It is really dangerous. But all these other players are using the Punishing One instead because it counters Leviathans really, really easy. So CG does not want that. So what they're going to do is they're going to take TIE Dagger and elevate it so that it, one, is the better ship for the Mirror, because if you have a TIE Dagger starting, then that Mirror is crazy easy. So it counters that, or they're going to buff it so it's better for the Mirror, and then they're going to probably, when they buff that TIE Dagger, it may affect the Profundity counter, and it should probably affect the Executor counter with the Punishing One. I will say, since it's only like 3 or 4 star Punishing Ones, I'm able to kill it pretty quickly with my Leviathan, and I haven't had any issues using that TIE Dagger starting right now. Once they're fully, I don't know if I had if someone had like an R9 Dengar 7 stars, what I would do, or how that would kind of go out, because that may stop the easy kill on the Punishing One, and then that may stop the counter. But hopefully before people start going crazy with them, CG will fix the counter and it'll work. But what does that say about the upcoming meta for 2025? What I want to say is them not nerfing the Punishing One shows that they're comfortable where the Executor is, and that comfortable, like where they're comfortable is that it's a tier above the Profundity, Negotiator, Chimera. And I think not having that same level of Profundity to Executor balance is a pretty huge deal, because before they countered each other. Like on offense, you can take the Profundity and beat the Executor, you can take the Executor and beat the Profundity, and the win rates were pretty reliable. So the fact that they're just like, we're comfortable that the Profundity no longer counters the Executor, tells me that in 2025, what they're planning on, and the fact that they want to buff the Leviathan instead of nerf the Executor, tells me that they're doing a shift of the meta where they're probably going to come out with like a 2025 fleet that's going to be a tier above Leviathan, and they're going to be like leagues above what the Executor and the Profundity are going to be, and they'll probably come out with a ship that will lift the Profundity. I doubt it's going to be Red 5. It's more likely going to be like Luthen's ship or something that they'll use to boost the Profundity, and that will kind of like bring it on par with the Executor is what I think. Leviathan's going to stay top of the meta until the 2025 when we get the next meta ship, and then that should just be like just the same thing like what Profundity was to the Executor before. I think that new fleet is just going to be slightly better than the Leviathan. And I think this just shows that CG is upping the meta, that the difficulty and how strong our fleets in 2025 is going to just be elevated compared to what it was in 2024. So I would say things like Negotiator, Malevolence, Finalizer, maybe Chimera I think is still going to be useful. We'll see if the TIE Dagger messes with that. But Radis, all these like other meta ships that we're using, unless they get a lifter, I think it's going to be a difficult ship meta in the future if everyone starts getting lifters and just kind of changes how we can do off meta counters. Who knows, maybe we'll just have to like cheese our fleet's defense and kind of like bring our best ships on offense, or who knows how it's going to shake up. But I think the biggest losers right now, Marauder and the Profundity are probably the biggest losers right now in this ship meta. So I hope that the 2025 changes are coming pretty soon. But that's my thoughts on this. Like, I do think there's going to be a meta shift. I think that the fact that they're not going to nerf the Punishing One shows that in 2025 they're going to up the tier and the difficulty of ships and how strong they are. So just be prepared for that, be flexible. Let's kind of work through this as a community and see what we can do to counter the Punishing One with Executor, so that we can still have an off meta counter. But if it's not, then it looks like we just have to bring a stronger ship like the Leviathan to counter it. And if you don't have all the fleets, then and you have the Executor, I think a lot of players are probably, as they only have one GL ship and it's the Executor, just put that on defense with your Punishing One. You'll probably get some easy wins. So thanks everyone for listening and watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.